Hello everyone, this is the 20th anniversary edition LEGO Star Wars Snowspeeder, which comes with a throwback Lando Calrissian classic styled figure, and the ship itself, or the craft itself, is based off the one that Luke piloted early in Empire Strikes Back, so not a lot of orange on it, though some. Honestly, LEGO has done a lot of Snowspeeder, I should say, T-47 airspeeder models over the years, and many of them have shared this same basic design because essentially they got to a point where it was really good and they didn't need to change too much else, or at least they couldn't change too much else without spending a whole lot of money creating new molds that were relatively specialized. So it's a little bit of a good problem to have, I guess, that they have not come up with much new to make these things significantly better. You have to be pretty much a super fan or just looking at pictures at the moment to pick out some of the smaller details that differ from one variant to the other. Usually there will be one or two parts that have major color swaps or that just change between different textures of pieces or reorder pieces ever so slightly. This one, interestingly, has for the first time, I believe it's the first time, the orange color used for these two little bits of the paintwork back here rather than red. Typically they're depicted in red. The last one, last standalone Luke's Snowspeeder set had it in red, and most models that I've seen depict it in red also, as well as most of the other markings, which are actually done in orange here. I don't know which is correct. Probably the true color was something in between, a slightly orangish red, but probably closer to red. And in terms of color, another thing that they could do to make these better now that they've had such a perfected or close to perfected design for so long is reintroduce the light gray color, lighter than light gray, to start making some of these ships, or some of these crafts, which are in universe, actually gray. Also, this could do for a new canopy piece by now. They've been using this same canopy design for, well, quite a long time, since the beginning of LEGO Star Wars. They do have a new print here for this one, but ultimately, most of this looks like these builds have for quite a number of years now. So I think overall this is just fine for what it is, but it's a little bit of a shame that they weren't able to take advantage of this 20th anniversary to really dig a little bit deeper. In terms of features, they've got the harpoon on a very simple windlass back here. Stud shooter, which is able to rotate around. It's always angling up just a little bit. They've got the air brake vent flap things on the sides, which can come up, and there's a sticker beneath there to show a little bit of detail. This does have spring-loaded shooters underneath. They are hidden away just fine. You will see the tails out the back of this, just a little bit of those, but they're in good places to be able to fire them off easily as you're swishing this around, or you can just leave them out and then you don't see them whatsoever. And then the canopy this time is set up to have dual hinging. They've done dual hinging a number of times now, but you can open up just the front part of it, or for much more convenience, what most people will do most of the time is just open all of this. And this is similar to what they did on the Sand Speeder. They've actually just done more of it this time. It opens up even more, and you have plenty of space in there to easily get a pilot into the front. You can fit a lightsaber along the side without taking it apart. You can get your gunner back there, and there's a little bit of extra storage at the back for small items, small weapons and such, and the heads-up display and part of the console for the gunner is shown on just the the assembly that comes up with the canopy rather than integrating it down into the floor level. So that gives more space down here for storage. This is very simple, straightforward, and I think it works well. Really could use a new canopy by now though. For a side build, they include a P-tower with just a little bit of snowy terrain beneath it. This works just fine. It's able to rotate around and also angle both up and down. I appreciate the fact that it's able to actually angle down a bit. This has the stud shooter built into the side, so you can actually fire with it. But if you hate the look of that and how it makes it asymmetrical, it's extremely easy to leave that off. And within the spares in this set, you will find one extra one of these. I think the designer may have thought about that, but did not have control over it in particular. But you have an extra cheese slope, so you can make that symmetrical, at least from side to side. I think that looks much better. It's nice to have the option, you know. I typically am not one to recommend the purchase of an entire set just to get the minifigures, or especially not to get just one minifigure, unless it's a minifigure focused set, you know, a battle pack or something like that. But this classic Lando Calrissian here really tries to break that trend for me, because this is a desirable figure. First came out in, you know, the original version of it. First came out in the Cloud City set that a lot of people still covet after 16 years it's been since it came out. And this reproduction is really good. Now, it does suffer from the same problem as the other 20th anniversary figures that they've come up with for this series, in that it has huge printing on the back saying 20 years, and it kind of tries to ruin the value there. But this has a cape, and they didn't print it on the cape, they printed it on the body, which I will show you in a minute. So during just normal use, this looks like the classic figure in every way, and it's great. I do believe the cape is a little bit shinier than the old one, though. I never got the old one myself in hand, but this appears to have just a little bit more of the transparent thread kind of shine to it. It's not metallic; it's a plastic shine, but it's a good one. It looks cool to me. But this is a really nice figure to get. And yes, that cape does have the two colors on it, probably done a little bit better than the originals were. So if anything, maybe a little bit higher quality overall. There you can see his face more clearly, and the print on the back of the torso, see, that's ugly. That's just a big old stamp across everything. When you see that on the back of a figure, when it's just visible without anything covering it up, to me, I'll probably say this every time, it makes it look like a fridge magnet or keychain version of a figure. It's not classy. But with the cape covering it up, I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to remember that it's there. So that's great. This little stand is also included with each of these 20th anniversary figures, and I think it's really nice. It's simple, but it has a print, which is going to be exclusive for this series, and I think it just presents the figures nicely. And they also have a 2x4 plate included with each of these sets, so you can connect them side by side for a nice desk display or shelf display. Here's the Luke Skywalker pilot figure, and with the exception of some minor printing errors on the belt and the legs, this looks really good to me. Good level of detail. I am perfectly satisfied with the reversion to the original or the earlier design of Rebel pilot helmet rather than using the dual molded ones, which I really liked the idea of, the concept of having the dual molded visor that actually comes across the front, but the shaping just wasn't right. Now, the printing is not opaque enough with this, with the white there. You know, it definitely should have been more white, but it doesn't bother me too much. It doesn't bother me as much on a figure like this as it typically would, because it just changes the color a little bit, and I don't know, it just doesn't bother me personally. Now, this is nice to have the visor up version of a face as well, so if that is on there like that, you see just a little hint of it. Yeah, pretty good figure overall. Here's Dak the gunner, and again, the print on the legs and the hip, not as good as it usually should be, so a little bit of disappointment there, but still, from any reasonable distance, it looks pretty good. I do hope that trend does not continue, though. LEGO needs to tighten up their quality of printing in general, but yeah, again, from any reasonable distance in person, it's still not that bad, and this does use the same designs for all the printed pieces for the flight suit. And here we do not get a visor up version. We just get a I'm hit kind of look, or either angry or scared or both, kind of appearance for his alternate face. And then there's one Hoth Rebel Trooper with the funky goggles that honestly are too low on the face. I like those goggles, but with this setup here, that's just a little bit on the funny side, a little bit too silly in my opinion. But you do have the two options for places to put that, so you can just put it up here where I think it looks so much better, so much better. Ah, so much better. Yes, that I like. And the print for the torso here is just fine. Hey, it's nice to see a trooper with a face other than Angry Clone. Am I right? I mean, sure, this is not an Imperial figure, so you wouldn't expect it, but I still kind of expect it. Anytime I do a face reveal for a trooper, I just expect that same face all the time. Here are this set's spare pieces that are left over after you build it, and in addition to these, you get a couple of little studs for your stud shooters and one extra bolt for the spring-loaded shooter. Looking at value, I would expect this set to sell for about $35 US, including the extra figure, compared to the 2014 version, which had about 30 fewer pieces and cost $30 US at that time. You also have a little bit of inflation to factor in, maybe, but this is retailing for $40 is what they're asking for, which is not too far out of the range. It's going to be easy to find discounts. I would expect it would be easy to find discounts, especially since, again, Snowspeeders have been done enough that these probably won't sell in huge amounts, even though, you know, you do have the specialness of the 20th anniversary edition. Probably a lot of scalpers and investors will buy them up, but the primary Lego customers, which are parents buying toys for their kids, probably won't flock to something like this. So I would expect to see these be available at retail for $35, which I think is perfectly fine. For $40, it's even not a total ripoff. It's just a little bit much. It's a little bit more than it needs to cost. So at least it's in the range. It's a good set. Again, it's a shame that they didn't really push the design forward for the 20th anniversary edition here, but the design that they do have is more than good enough. They keep tweaking it a little bit here, a little bit there. I don't mind the tweaks on this one overall. I like the figure selection in general, and the Lando definitely adds extra value to this for me personally, and probably for a lot of other fans as well. I really like also being able to so easily change out the design of the cannon there to take off the stud shooter and to make it look nicer. So overall, a pretty successful set, I think. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and check out the build video if you haven't seen it by now. I'll link to that right now, and talk to you again soon.